I'm a little bit late. It's 10:30 on the 3rd of July, Wednesday the 3rd of July. I made a promise that I would broadcast and publish the final forecast, the Britain Predicts final forecast at 10 o'clock. And then everything got a little bit... Life got in the way. Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome to what is probably the final forecast what is the absolutely final forecast for the 2024 UK general election, but what might probably be the final broadcast before polls close in this long, arduous, exhausting, and at times a little boring election of this year. God, it's over now. It's over. Let's talk about the final forecast. Welcome anyway. If you want to join the conversation, you can do so via Twitter, twitter.com/BritainElects, or you can go to YouTube, youtube.com/@BritainElects, and you can join the conversation there. Because Elon Musk is being Elon Musk, I want to progressively move more and more of what I do with my face onto YouTube as opposed to Twitter. So keep an eye on that. But yes, give it a subscribe, do all you can. Let's talk about this whole election campaign. It's over now. It's over. Or rather, it isn't. For anyone involved in campaigns, tomorrow is vital. It's getting the vote out. It's pushing out people who would otherwise say, up yours to the system, I'm not voting, it's not of any interest to me. And you know people like that exist. You know turnout in certain areas can be absolutely terrible. And so the ground game by activists, the ground game by local parties in places in seats where perhaps demographically isn't always their territory, perhaps they're on the back foot, perhaps maybe poll-wise they're just that little bit behind. The ground game on the day is vital. Getting the vote out, knocking them up, or rather knocking on the doors of the people you need to get out is utterly, utterly key. The idea put about by some podcasters that door knocking is an aged activity and completely irrelevant in the age of the internet, in the age of podcasts, in the age of Facebook is completely for the birds. And I think anyone who hasn't been involved in a campaign would be very quick to say that. I think you do need to get involved in campaigns to know it has every part, every value, every import as it did 50, 60, 70 years ago. But there we are. So, welcome. The time is now 33 minutes past. My name is Ben Walker. I am the co-founder of Britain Elects. I am also a data journalist at The New Statesman, and I'm very, very tired. I'm very, very tired. So, nevertheless, it's over, and let's get to it. Let's look at the actual numbers so far. So, Britain Predicts, for those not unawares. Am I really gonna? Some people are asking, can you get onto the forecast? I don't think I'm gonna get straight there. I don't think I'm gonna go there. I mean, you can find it, but you can listen to me instead. Britain Predicts was established in 2021 during my time at The New Statesman, of which I'm still employed, and it was an idea to recognise people want to see their party doing well in the horse race of public opinion, the polls basically. And the best model we thought we could do is emulate electoral calculuses with some more granular modifications. I've been covering local elections for the past 10, 11 years, literally since I was in high school. It's the most exhausting sport I ever engage in, even though I'm not losing any weight in doing it. And it's taught me really that demographic assumptions, demographic projections of where votes lie only tell you not even half the story. They tell you a quarter of it. They tell you a tiny portion of it. It's local elections, local strength, local prejudices. How Catholic voters in Lancashire move is not the same as how Catholic voters in London move. How a certain denomination can be absolutely key. How certain people who identify as English in certain parts of the UK changes their voting pattern relative to others, right? Absolutely key. And local elections sometimes, though not always, is the best route to discern that. That's why I built the Britain Predicts model. That's why I've been keeping it running since. That's why we are at a stage now where we're pumping out forecasts every week or so. And that's why we've done rather well so far. The Britain Predicts forecast model has done rather well in forecasting by-election results. Not always, not point to point, not perfect, but it does better than a few other models, I have to say, and actually a few other actual polls. So, it's pretty good. So let's have a look at what it says. With less than 7 hours until polls open, 8 hours, 7, 8, with more than 8 hours until polls open. Let's see what the Britain Predicts forecast model says with more than 8 hours until polls open. And it's this. Labour are on course for an election victory, the likes of which only 1997 compares. It's likely that they will do even better than what they got in 1997. The Conservatives are on course for a defeat, the likes of which, in their long and illustrious history of being the Western world's most successful political party, they're on course for the worst result ever, losing 277 parliamentarians, falling to 114, on a share of the vote of 20.6%. Labour maintain a 20-point lead in the opinion polls, or rather they maintain a 20-point lead according to the Britain Elects poll tracker over the Conservatives. Labour are on 418 seats. That is up 237 on the last election. And look at that Conservative freefall, and look at what it's driving, look at what it's causing now. Reform. Forecast to come away with 15.8% of the vote. They would come away with around 6 MPs in the House of Commons. Nigel Farage, 8th time lucky, is likely to win his Clacton constituency. And it's not unreasonable to suggest he might have a few of his friends winning seats as well. The Lib Dems look set to have a very good election, perhaps their best since David Lloyd George. Is that a statistic we can use? Is that an actually accurate statistic? 63 members of Parliament forecast for the Lib Dems, up 55 on the last election. The Greens, now this is a new one. The Greens are on course to push up their numbers of parliamentarians to 4. It looks like they are going to hold their Brighton Pavilion seat, but it's not a done deal. It looks like they will edge Labour for first place in Bristol Central, but it doesn't look like a done deal. And it looks like they might just top the Conservatives in Waveney Valley and I forgot the seat, North Herefordshire, North Herefordshire, by the slimmest of margins. But I note, and I am very conscious that when I look at these model numbers, the Green winning margins are not comfortable. Those 4 seats forecast for the Greens, 3 of them are forecast on some very fine line majorities. It's not a guarantee. It's not a done deal by any stretch. The Scottish Nationalists are on course to lose more than half of their parliamentarians in Scotland, winning 23 seats, down 25. That comes on a vote share of 33%. And Plaid Cymru, the Party of Wales, are on course to end up with 3 MPs, up 1 on the last election, though that's notional results, and they are in a very tight fight in Ynys Môn, or rather on Ynys Môn, the Isle of Anglesey. We'll look at the actual seats in a minute, but in Anglesey, it is very much 1 percentage point between them. 5.3% for the other parties, and now Britain Predicts accounts for the change in public opinion among British Muslims, and you'll be able to see that once you look at the map, now available on sotn.newstatesman.com. Go to sotn.newstatesman.com if you want to see the forecast map, have a scroll through, see the individual figures, see what you think, see if it's rubbish, see what it means for your local area. Tight fights abound, I have to say. What is it going to mean? Let's have a look at the polls. What's happened over the course of the past, few years. Look at that. My God. I want to say nothing has changed over the course of the past few years, because truly, yes, nothing has changed. Since Liz Truss entered Downing Street as Prime Minister, the Conservatives have been in a state of freefall. Their advantage over Labour is nothing, or rather their disadvantage is 20 percentage points. Labour's lead has been 20 percentage points and has hovered around that for the past 2 years, or rather 2 years if you start from September. So really, nothing has changed, no. And we started this election campaign, by the way. We started this election campaign off the backs of inflation figures that were meant to look good for the Conservative government, and yet nothing changed from that. And it's a simple case of, if you don't feel it, you're not going to vote about it. You're not going to vote with it in mind, are you? That's the problem, all right? And I just want to move away from this chart to a different chart, tracking Labour's lead, because party popularity isn't everything. It's whether you are trusted on the economy. It's whether your party leader is more liked than your opposition's party leader. And it's whether your own party leader actually has a net advantage in their own approval ratings. All right. So Labour has a 20-something point lead, or rather, as we come to the 3rd of July now, let me just see if I can keep this here. Yep. As we come to the 3rd of July, they have a 20-point lead in the polls. At the same time, they have a 14-point lead in the polls on the economy, the most fundamental metric to gauge whether a party is perceived as competent enough to return to power, competent enough to manage the books, competent enough to keep the lights on. If you are not trusted on the economy, you cannot be trusted with the country. If you are not trusted on the economy, the hope of you winning an election is close to nil, if not nil. Not once under Ed Miliband's premiership as Labour Party leader did Labour gain a lead on the economy. Not once during Jeremy Corbyn's leadership of the Labour Party did the Labour Party gain a lead on the economy. The last time Labour had a lead on the economy was 2008 under Gordon Brown. The financial crisis changed everything for perceptions of the then new Labour government, and during the Conservative years of austerity, of pasty taxes, of bedroom taxes, of a whole litany of things, of even Brexit, of even management of COVID, not once during that period did Labour eke out a lead over the Conservatives on the economy. That is fundamental. If you do not have a lead on the economy, you have nothing, all right? Party popularity comes and goes, but perception of competence is a little bit more stable, and you can see that. You can see that, can't you? Right, you look at Labour's lead on the economy, you compare it to Labour's lead over the Conservatives, you see a more stable figure. Partly because there are fewer polls, sure, but it tends to stay stable. Labour has absolutely moved on from Corbyn. It has also moved on from Miliband. Perception of competence on the economy is key. And it came at the end of August 2022. Under, I note, not Liz Truss, but under Boris Johnson. Under Boris Johnson, Labour was starting to eke out leads on the economy. It was only under Truss did Labour not just gain a lead on the economy, they gained a substantial lead on the economy, and it did not change. It barely changed throughout. Since Rishi Sunak called the general election campaign, Labour's lead on the subject has only grown, admittedly by a percentage point or two, but it's grown, not shrunk. The very motive that drove the Prime Minister to call this general election was off the backs of the economy, was it not? And even that was a complete foolhardy move. What the hell? What a complete lack of strategy from the Conservative campaign. Keir Starmer's own lead over the Prime Minister started at 12 or 11 percentage points over Rishi Sunak. It ends 15 points. Starmer's own advantage over the Prime Minister has grown, as has Starmer's own advantage over the proportion of Britons who dislike him. He started this campaign with a net approval of +1, if that, and he ends it with +6. When you compare that to David Cameron, when you compare that to Tony Blair, that's nothing. That's actually a poor showing. And if Starmer was up against David Cameron, the election result, I dare say, would be a little bit different. Maybe not too much, but a little bit different. Because Cameron, when he was Prime Minister, when he was at the apex of his game, had broad public approval. It went away the minute he got into power, but it was substantial. All right. So these are the metrics. It's not just party popularity that has driven Labour's lead. It's perception of competence on the economy. Labour's brand shift on the economy started under Johnson, accelerated under Truss, and stayed stable under Sunak. All right. Now let's return to these polls. What's happened over the course of the past few months? Well, you see Labour's lead hasn't changed. 20 percentage points. Nothing has changed. I say this over and over again, partly because Theresa May said it when everything had changed. So a double bit of irony there. Partly because it's actually quite true. Nothing has changed in terms of the Labour lead. But Labour's share of the forecast vote has drifted a few points. In May, it was around 43, 44, 45%. It's now gone down to 40%. But the Conservative share of support has gone down from 25, 24, 23 to around about 20%. Reform, upon the announcement, the installation of Nigel Farage as leader of the Reform, mounting a death of Stalin type coup to end the leadership of Rishi. Well, end the leadership of Rishi Sunak as well, I bet. But end the leadership of Richard Tice, Georgi Malenkov in this film, and assume the leadership himself. His party's gone up from 10 to 11% to around about 14%. Okay, that's a decent enough, well, not just 14%, 16% according to the Britain Elects poll tracker. That's a substantial enough shift in support. Now the question is, are we overstating this? Are the pollsters overstating this? Because pollsters typically have more logged on respondents than perhaps is demographically representative. And by that I mean people who are aware of the news, people who have opinions on the news, people who, bluntly, might have a few more reactionary views than the media in Britain. That might push up the number for reform artificially. And this is why I wrote about a few years ago, last year even, that the reform vote was a phantom vote. But then we got to the by-elections in Tamworth and Blackpool, and indeed the local elections. And we saw reform's vote wasn't just phantom, but actually quite something. And so we're looking at this now, and we're looking at what looks to be 16% of support for reform. And we are, well, that looks real. It looks possible. It doesn't look impossible. And I would just make this point as well. 16% for reform is the equivalent to, well, 9, 18, that's close to 5 to 6 million votes. Okay. Now, that if you end up with a result like this, you are going to see Labour come away with 6, 7, an 8-figure vote, and the Conservatives will probably end up around 6 to 7 million, and Reform will end up around 5 to 6 million votes cast. 6 to 7 million for the Conservatives, 5 to 6 million for Reform. You know, upper end, lower end, whatever. But when you put that on a table, when you put that on a spreadsheet, when you list that on a television screen, the gap doesn't look particularly big. I dare say it looks emotionally, psychologically traumatizing even for Conservative activists, for Conservative members. The idea that they are only 1 million and a bit votes ahead of the Reform Party. But that sounds a little bit, as Patrick Champion says on our YouTube channel, it looks a little bit like 1983. A Labour Party battered, bruised, brought to the edge of calamity, brought to the edge of oblivion, with a third force snapping at their heels. And when you look at the vote totals, it doesn't look too far off. The difference is, however, is that unlike 1983 for the opposition, or what were the losing party, unlike 1983 for the losing party, the defeat in seat terms looks set to be only worse. Let's just go back to that now. Conservatives are forecast to come away this election with 114 parliamentarians, members of the House of Commons, down 277 seats. That would mark the worst result for the Conservative Party in its history. The most successful, apparently, the most successful party in the Western world. What on earth is going on there? How do you recover from that? Well, to be honest with you, I'm looking at the 114 MPs and I'm thinking you can recover from that. But I want to make this point to you, and I wish I had another chart to show you, because if I wrote rightly, and I'm just going to pull up one of my pieces that I just wrote now. The range, every poll, every forecast has a margin for error. That's not news to anybody listening, is it? Polling is a science. When you were in high school, how many times did you do a science test? You did it 3 times because you knew the single time you did it, there would be a margin for error. You knew it could be out. You knew it could be wrong. That's why you don't look at just one poll. You look at multiple polls, right? It's just basic high school, primary school science. So, though we currently forecast the Conservatives to win 114 seats, that could be as low as 47 and as high as 163. Okay? So a defeat which ranges from 1997 to near wipeout. That sounds like fun. A defeat which risks total near obliteration, or a defeat for the Conservatives on the scale of 1997 that I don't think I'm exaggerating in saying people at the time thought it would take the Conservatives a decade and a bit to recover from. Hard stuff. Labour's currently on course for 418 seats, but they could come away with as much as many as 425 or as little as 341. The simple truth is that the winner of the general election tomorrow, big majority or small, is only one party. I don't think there is any doubt about who has won this general election. I think you're kidding yourself if otherwise. That doesn't, however, mean there are no tight fights. I'm just going back to my piece here that you can't read, but I'm just reading it out to myself. There are more than 42 seats coming down to the wire. 1 percentage point either way. So there are more than 40 seats in which the result is, for example, 40% for one party, 39% for another. That's not a done deal. That's not a closed book. That is something in which a get-out-the-vote operation can change things up. There are 193 seats in which the winning party will have a majority of 5 percentage points or less. So these figures that I've just shown to you are the definitive mean figures. They don't tell the whole story, do they? The Conservatives could range from 1997 to near wipeout. Reform could range from 0 to 14. They could end up with more than a dozen seats in the House of Commons, and they could also end up with 0. I think personally Farage has already got Clacton, but the model says otherwise. The Lib Dems could range as little, as few as 40, and as many as 70. Scottish nationalists could range as low as 10 and as high as 35. All right. And Plaid Cymru could go as low as 2 and as high as 4. All right. It really is. There is a great range of reasonable probability here. So when you look at these figures, you think, oh, okay, if it ends up with Labour, 440, Conservatives 90, I don't want to say that Britain Predicts forecast is wrong. I just want to say, well, yeah, it kind of said that. And I'm going to put out a table showing that tomorrow just to emphasize that, okay? So these figures only tell half of the stories, all right? Now, what else can we say? So how about Wales? Let's just focus on Wales for a minute, because public opinion in Wales has seen sharp drops. Well, a progressive drift, downfall, a hill-like scramble down for the Conservatives, and a progressive rise for Labour. But you do note the rise in support for Labour isn't that particularly big. So what does it say right now? Labour are on course to win 43% of the vote in Wales. That is only up a few percentage points on the last election. And note, that is not bigger. That is not a bigger share of support than what Labour got in 1997. This would be worrisome for Labour, if not for the state of freefall, state of collapse in support for the Conservatives. Look at that. Conservatives down now to 19%, down from 30-something% in 2019, and Reform on 15%, edging Plaid Cymru there, who are on course for 13%. Lib Dems and Greens on 6 and 4% respectively. Very little change for them there. The rise in support for Reform has been pretty substantial, significant, and it doesn't appear to get much coverage, I don't think. Now, for Labour to in effect plateau over the recent months, recent years even, should be seen as worrisome for them in the Senedd election to come. They're going to win the vast majority of the seats up in Wales tomorrow. But they have, it seems to me, a ceiling, they have reached a ceiling. And the growing unpopularity of the Welsh First Minister, Vaughan Gething, the vote of no confidence against him, the unpopularity of certain things like the 20 miles an hour speed zone, do appear to be setting Welsh Labour up for a very poor showing in the next Senedd election. Who benefits? Yet to be seen. The radical right under UKIP went away, but they seem to have returned with a vengeance under Reform. And I have to say, look, people, whether you're in London or otherwise, people like to think Wales is a progressive paradise. No, it's just like any other corner of the country. It has its fair share of social conservatism. It has a fair share of Reform voters, more than a fair share of Reform voters. If the polls stay as is and we get to the Senedd election, Labour will lose some seats and Reform will come into that Senedd with a decent showing. And what will that mean for British politics? We don't really know. Scotland, meanwhile, is a different kettle of fish. The decline and fall of Nicola Sturgeon, the decline and fall of what Alex Salmond called Humza the Brief, has seen Labour gain a lead over the SNP in the opinion polls in Scotland. The current forecast is this: Labour 36%, SNP 33%, Conservatives 14%, and Lib Dems 8%. 3-point lead for Labour over the SNP. Nip and tuck, some polls show it a different way. But I'm going to stick with the Britain Elects forecast, Britain Elects poll tracker for now, and I'm going to say it looks like Labour will edge the SNP for total number of votes cast. I wouldn't say that's a guarantee. Wouldn't say that's a guarantee by any stretch, but it's more likely than not. And I would also say pro-union tactical voting will undoubtedly help Labour in many seats in Scotland with a significant Conservative vote. Plenty of Conservative voters are willing to wear the Labour Party. Fewer Scottish Labour voters are willing to wear the Scottish Conservatives, but pro-union tactical voting is not a thing. It is a thing. It happens. It exists. And it may see Labour do a little bit better than polls imply, and it may see them beat the SNP more than polls imply, and it may see the Conservatives hold on better than polls imply. The Britain Predicts forecast anticipates this and accounts for this, and you can see that by googling Britain Predicts or going to sotn.newstatesman.com. Wonderful stuff. So, yeah. What can we do? Let's have a look at the actual map. This is what the country would look like if Britain voted in the way Britain Predicts forecasts. Some serious gains for Labour. All right. Serious stuff indeed. Oh, wow. I don't know where to begin. Where should we begin here? Whoa. Why don't we start with the Prime Minister's own constituency? Richmond and Northallerton. Conservative 29%, Labour 22%, Reform 21%. Looks like a Conservative hold there. Looks like the Prime Minister will hold on. The idea that Rishi Sunak will lose his seat is improbable. What else we got? I'm getting comments now about Bassetlaw. Oh gosh, Bassetlaw. Conservatives only down for That can't be right. That can't be right. Okay, right. I'm going to have a look at this after. I'm going to have a look at this after, because that Bassett law doesn't seem right at all. But anyway, nevertheless, look at this one. Mansfield, 26-point fall in support for the Conservatives. Labour up 7 points. Labour need to be doing better than that. Absolutely. Labour need to be doing much better than that. The likelihood is they probably will do better than that. I'm surprised the Britain Predicts forecast is saying that. But anyway, I'm going to have a look at that once this broadcast is over. Got a request for Islington. This one. Islington, not that one. The wrong one. Islington North. Will Jeremy Corbyn hold on in Islington North as an independent? The current forecast is no. Labour are on course for 39% of the vote there, down, admittedly, 26 points on the last election. And Jeremy Corbyn coming away with 32% of the vote. What about this? Ooh, look at this one. Penny Mordaunt, will she hold on? Nip and tuck here. Conservative 36%, Labour 36% as well. Will Penny Mordaunt hold on? Were you still up for Penny? According to the Britain Predicts final forecast, it seems like she might cling on. Jacob Rees-Mogg as well. Oh, look at that. That is coming down, right down to the wire. Look at that. 37% Conservative, 37% Labour. It really is down to the wire there. What else? What else have we got? Tamworth, looking like a Labour gain there by 2 points. Very, very close indeed. Labour 35%, Conservative 33%. Oh dear. Oh dear. Not a guarantee is that. What about the other one? Wellingborough and Rushton. Looking like an easier Labour gain from Conservative here. 40% Labour, 29.6% Conservative. Kemi Badenoch, where's her seat? Where's her seat? What about Jonathan Gullis in Stoke-on-Trent North? Jonathan Gullis seems on course to lose his seat. Conservative 35%, Labour 40% there. Conservatives down 19 percentage points on the last election. Mossley and Hall Green, which one is that in Birmingham? Not Birmingham Ladywood, although note a smaller, an independent candidate coming second. Birmingham Edgbaston looking like a safe Labour hold there. Birmingham, Hall Green and Moseley. Labour, 56%, down 11 points on the last election. An independent candidate on 20%, up 12 points on the last election. Isle of Wight. Oh, my God, yes. We need to talk about the Isle of Wight. This is a free-for-all. Absolutely chaos. Oh, God, look at this. The state of the Conservative freefall makes the winning post, cuts it down to size by a pretty sizable margin, especially when you have growth in support for all the other parties. Look at this. The Isle of Wight West, Labour 25%, and they win the seat. Conservatives 21% and they lose a seat. Reform 20%. Greens 17%. I don't want to say that's anyone's game. I want to say it's not out of the realms of possibility. Is it? Isle of Wight East, ditto. Ditto. Goodness me. What else have we got here? Thornbury and Yate. Where's Thornbury and Yate? That was the one. Looking like a Lib Dem gain by a very slim margin there. Lib Dems on 37%. Tories on 36%. But they are down 23 percentage points. I'm looking at this now. And I'm thinking, God, really? Is that what I'm forecasting? Good. Would I put my money with that? I think Labour's probably edged this. You know, North East Somerset and Hanham. But I'm sorry. Look at the numbers. Conservative 37%. Labour 37%. It's margin of error stuff. All right? It's not unreasonable to think could happen. Nigel Farage in Clacton. Looks like he's on course to take the seat quite comfortably with a, goodness me, 20-point lead over the incumbent candidate Giles Watling. The Conservative share of the vote is down, forecast to fall 48 percentage points. Reform up 45 percentage points. Goodness me. And not only that, Boston and Skegness, while not quite as clean cut as a gain as Clacton, does show a lead for Reform of less than 10 percentage points. Reform 36%, Conservative 28%. Labour 18% now. Oof. Luton South. What's this? Luton South, Labour up only half a percentage point on 49%. Conservative 16%, down 19%. And the smaller parties on 12%, up 3 points. I would just note this, that a significant portion of this seat... Oh, no. Ignore me. Yeah, just ignore me there. What else we got? Bracknell. Oof. Look at that. Labour gain by a very not entirely comfortable margin. Labour gain with 30% of the vote. Conservatives 25, Reform 19, Lib Dems 13. Oof. Great Yarmouth. Labour gain 28% of the vote. Conservatives 27, Reform 26. That's a three-way. I wouldn't bet any money on that. I wouldn't bet any money on that at all. And I think what this tells you is one thing. The Conservative vote is made up of many different people. And certain people are concentrated in certain parts of the world. In parts of East Anglia, in Essex, in Lincolnshire and others, where UKIP once had strength, there is a sentiment that does find appeal in Nigel Farage. You see it in the surge in support for reform in Great Yarmouth. You see it in Boston and Skegness. You see it in Clacton. You see it in here on the Essex coast, on Castle Point. Look at that. Reform gain forecast. 35% of the vote against 32% for the Conservatives. Basildon South and East Thurrock. Reform 30% of the vote. Conservatives 25%. Labour 25%. Hornchurch and Upminster. A forecast that, I'll be honest with you, I'm looking at and I just find it hard to believe. But money where the mouth is. I'm going to follow the forecast. I'm going to follow the model. I'm going to trust in the model. Hornchurch and Upminster. Reform 28%. It's not unreasonable for Reform to reach 20-something% in Hornchurch and Upminster, the whitest seat in Greater London, the seat that recorded the highest share of support for UKIP in Greater London. It's not unreasonable, all right? And also, part of Nigel Farage's old stomping ground of South Thanet, Herne Bay and Sandwich, whatever they call it. 29% Reform, 28% Labour. Ooh, you don't bet on this at all. You don't bet on Herne Bay. You don't bet on Hornchurch. You don't bet on Castle Point. You definitely don't bet on North East Somerset or Portsmouth North or, oh God, definitely Bassetlaw and Mansfield. That, I'll be honest with you, I'm putting this forecast out here and I'm sitting here now where, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. But I'm looking at that and I'm thinking quite embarrassed. I'm quite embarrassed about that. That shouldn't be happening in my model. But there we go. Sheffield Hallam. This is... Ooh. No. Am I really forecasting that? Oh my God. I did not expect that. Wow. So look, listen. I put all my faith in the model. I don't go through the seats and think, oh, that's not quite right, that's rubbish, surely not. I'm going to edit that, right? I just put my faith in the model and I let it run. That's a shock. But again, margin of error stuff. Lib Dems 42% forecast, up 8 points, 9 points on the last election. Labour 41% forecast, up 6 points on the last election. Tight margin of error stuff. I know it's showing yellow. I know it's showing golden, orange, whatever colour you want to call it. I know it's showing that on the screen. But, I don't want to say that Britain predicts forecast will be right if it's a Labour hold, but, you'll cut me some slack, right? Yeah? Yeah, I hope you will. What else we got? Ashfield. Let's have a look at this. So, after the past few weeks, I decided to go and have a look at other parties. How is the Britain Predicts model treating smaller parties, such as the Ashfield Independents? And to be honest with you, we have no data to play with in terms of polling, so we just leave them as a static force. That's not right. So what I've used is local elections as an indicator as to where the Ashfield Independents is getting their support from, and it tends to come from more reform areas. The addition of the Reform Party on the scene is likely to see the Ashfield Independents lose some support, and that's what sees Reform come from 4th place in our last forecast to 2nd place here. But again, look at that. Labour 28%, Reform 21%, in Ashfield Independents 21%. Are you really going to bet on that? Are you really going to bet on that? Goodness me. Goodness me. What else we got here? Banbury, Labour 34%, Conservative 30%. Bicester and Woodstock. Ooh, look at that. Conservative 31%, Lib Dem 31%, Labour 22%. You would not bet money on this. And Whitney as well. Ooh, that's going to be interesting. Will Labour win this? Or will the Lib Dems win this? That'll be interesting to see. That'll be very interesting to see. Redditch, where I was about to say Nigel Farage, where Keir Starmer had his final rally of this general election campaign. Labour 30%, Conservatives 28%. That's close. That's pretty close. All right. I'm looking at this model and I just don't believe. I'm in a state of shock, to be honest with you, at some of these results. All right. It's hard. It's hard to. I wouldn't say accept it, but it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable, some of this. Mid Cheshire, the salt towns of Northwich, Winsford and Middlewich. Labour 49%, Conservatives 26%. Yeah. Hazel Grove, Lib Dems 42% up 5 points, Tories 22% down 24 points. Cheadle, Lib Dems 45% up 4 points, Tories 22% down 24 points. Rochdale, Labour 39%, George Galloway and others 21%. Westmoreland and Lonsdale, a notional Lib Dem gain, though of course we know this is an in effect Lib Dem hold. Lib Dems 44%, Tories 25%. Monmouthshire, Labour 34%, Conservatives 27%. Labour gain from Conservative. Bristol Central, down to the wire, but not by as much as first forecast. Greens 41%, Labour 38%, Lib Dems 12%, Conservatives 7%. Oof. Okay, I'll wear that. Looking like Thangam Debonair is in trouble. Absolutely. And we'll just go to the other Green seats. North Herefordshire. We have one poll to go off here, but look, it's data. You got to work with it. And to be honest with you, the indications are if the Greens are winning Bristol Central, they're going to do pretty well in other seats that they're targeting, I think. Greens 30%, Conservatives 28%. Nip and Tuck, you would not bet on that. Waveney Valley in Suffolk, Greens 28%, Conservatives 28%. You would not bet on this. My God. What about this one? Innis Mon, Anglesey, the Isle of. Labour 33%, Plaid Cymru 32%. You would not bet on that at all. Montgomeryshire and Glyndŵr, Labour 28%, Conservatives 27%. You would not bet on that, would you not? You would not bet on that at all. Don't bet on that. Don't be a betting man this election because you're going to lose a lot of money. You might win a lot of money as well. Glastonbury and Somerton, Lib Dem gain. And at the same time, Yeovil. Yeovil. Oh, I'm not going to try. I humiliate myself every time I go to the southwest. Conservatives 36%, Lib Dems 35%. Tiverton and Minehead 30%, Lib Dem gain. Honiton and Sidmouth. Again, you wouldn't bet on this, but yes, it is currently forecast to be a Tory hold. Yeovil, thank you. Bridgewater. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to have a drink while you just digest this one. Thank you to everyone saying Yeovil. Yeah, so Yeovil. Okay. Oh, that's a good bit of... I'm having a bit of King's Ginger tonight, which is the concoction made for King Bertie, Edward the... What is it, 7th? The Playboy King after Queen Victoria. He was getting too fat, too obese, too lazy. So the doctors thought, right, let's give him some alcohol. And he loved it so much. Liz Truss's old seat, South West Norfolk. Is Liz Truss really in trouble like that? Really? Conservatives 29%, Reform 27%. You can't see my face right now. I'm not going to be showing this, but I'm looking at this model and I'm not shrinking away in embarrassment, but I do look at these numbers and I think, surely not. Surely not. But the model says this. The model has form in certain by-elections, has done well in certain by-elections, is theoretically sound in my mind. It accounts for local election strength. It accounts for the historic strength for the UKIP vote. It takes into account demographics. It takes into account a hell of a lot of stuff. And it's not an MRP. And also, we choose which seat is going to be, what the tactical voting dynamic is in each of the seats, and we do that manually because there is a method, there is a calculation for it, but we try and be a little bit relatable to what's actually going on the ground. That's why, for instance, Hitchin, the tactical voting dynamic in Hitchin is between the Conservatives and Labour Party, not the Lib Dems, which is why the Lib Dems are on forecast to be squeezed there. Look at that Hitchin as well. Anthony is Anthony Strathern. Alistair Strathern seat. Alistair Strathern was the Labour candidate in the Mid Bedfordshire by-election. Won it, but has moved to the slightly more winnable Hitchin constituency, and it looks like he's going to do that. Tewkesbury seems, what was that? Wrong. Let's have a look at Tewkesbury. No, North Cotswolds. Well, I wouldn't rule out the Lib Dems winning this, 28% to 28%. I don't know how you can say that's wrong. It's coming down to the wire. And yes, Milton Keynes North, 47% there. Labour gain up 9 percentage points on the last election. Conservatives 29% down 22 percentage points. Chris Curtis, of Opinion fame and YouGov fame, is on course to be elected as Member of Parliament for Milton Keynes North. Sussex Weald. Where's Sussex Weald? Here it is. Oh my God. Well, no, not the end of the world there. Conservative 28%, Reform 21%, Labour 20%. Stroud, Greens. What are the Greens doing in Stroud? No, there's Stroud. Bit of a squeezage there for Labour in the case of the Greens. The tactical voting dynamic, I think, changes that up a little bit. What is a typically strong seat for the Greens sees them squeeze a little bit as Labour advance to take the seat over from the Conservatives. Yeah. What else are we trying to look at there? Rushcliffe, Ken Clark's all seat. I'm sorry. I don't believe this one bit. Bassett Law going Conservative. That's just ridiculous. The swing that's going to come back to Labour and Bassett Law is going to be so big, and it's going to be bigger than a 12-point increase, I think. But anyway, Rushcliffe, Labour gain, but only up by 4 points. Are you kidding me? 38%. What on earth is my model doing? Labour gain, 38%, up 3 points. Conservatives, 21%, down 27 points. Ceredigion-Shire, Ceredigion-Preseli. Plaid Cymru, hold here, up 5 points. Conservatives, 20%, but with Plaid winning with 36%. And another one, Caerphilly, Carmarthen. Plaid Cymru, 34%, up 3 points. Conservatives down 16 points. Labour down 2 points. Blackpool South, Labour, 49% up 9 points on the last election. Conservatives, 33% down 16 points. Goodness me. Corbs for Life has 1,001 takes, and 1,000 of them are wrong. So wonderful for him. Oh wow, look at that. Dudley. Conservative hold, really? Would you bet on that? Goodness me. Labour up 6 points to take 37% of the vote. Conservatives 38% down 25 percentage points. Goodness me. Is that really going to happen? Okay. Aldershot. No, that's not Aldershot. Ooh, look at this one. This is also coming down to the wire. Oh my God. This feels like the cop-out forecast. I'm giving so many forecasts here, down to the bloody wire, that when, the result goes the other way, if Aldershot goes the other way, I can stand up. Here, smug as can be. I can suck my King's ginger and I can say, yes, I've got it right. And bang on. Northwest Leicestershire. Where are you? There you are. Craig Smith as the incumbent Conservative candidate. Although it is... What's his name? I forget his name. Labour gain, 31% of the vote, up 5 points. Conservatives, 28%. Goodness me. North Shropshire as well, also coming down to the wire. I should, if I had to categorise, instead of giving the parties, if I only coloured this map by the parties where it was guaranteed, a lot of this wouldn't be guaranteed, would it? And you know what, actually, I'm going to cover my arse by changing this map to only the seats that are guaranteed. Chester South and Eddisbury, Labour gain. By the slimmest of margins. Again, you would not bet on that, would you? 32.3% for Labour in Chester South and Eddisbury. 32.2% for the Conservatives in Chester South and Eddisbury. It's all in the margins. And what did I say at the start of this broadcast? Get out the vote. The get out the vote operation is vital. If you do not have a get out the vote operation, expect to underperform. Expect in tight fights to not get what you want. So that's the case for Labour in Plaid Cymru. That's the case. Sorry, let me say that again. That is the case for Labour in Chester South and Eddisbury, and it's the case for Plaid Cymru and indeed Labour in the case of Ynys Môn. Scarborough and Whitby is looking like a pretty open and closed Labour gain here. Labour 37%, Conservatives 24%, Reform 19%. Oof. Yeah. What about this one? Ooh, look at this one. Beverley and Holderness. I've noticed some increased Labour activity here over the course of the past week, I think. Labour, 30%. Conservatives, 27%. The outskirts of Hull, although, to be honest with you, you can see it barely includes any outskirts of Hull. It's Beverley. And it's this bit. Holderness. Goole and Pocklington. Oh, God, you wouldn't bet on that. 29% Conservative, 26% Labour. I hope you're getting the takeaway from this. There are more than... What did I say? What did I say? There are more than 42 seats coming down to the wire. 1 percentage point either way. There are 193 seats in which the winning party will have a majority of 5 points or less. That's silly. Right? You would not bet on this. This is an election that, as a consequence of Conservative freefall, has opened up more than 100 seats that otherwise would be safe Conservative holds. At the same time, you have to wonder, is Labour underperforming in its old heartlands? Because these increases for Labour are based on something, okay? There is an underperformance here. Is it big enough of an underperformance to mean they miss out in Bassetlaw and Mansfield? Really? I doubt it, to be fair, but, never say never. Never say never. Weir Forest. I'm not going to try it. I'm going to say just Kidderminster. There we go. Kidderminster, Conservative 29%, Labour 28%. God. Northumberland, Labour 29%, Conservative 26%. Oof. Again, you wouldn't bet on this. Let's go to Scotland. Dumfries and Galloway, a consequence, an illustration perhaps of Labour voters lending their support to who? Well, if you're more progressive, it'll be the SNP, but if you're more pro-union, it'll be the Conservatives. Let's see what happens there. Will pro-union tactical voting help the Conservatives hold off the SNP in Dumfries and Galloway? That'll be interesting. That'll be very interesting. What else can we do? We'll ignore the Southwest. Brighton Pavilion, 47%. Look at that. Yes, the Greens are losing support. The Caroline Lucas factor no longer factors. Greens 47%, down 10 points on the last election. Labour up 14 points here. But it's not enough. It's not enough. The indication from people on the ground is that the Greens will probably hold this, but it's probably. It's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee. But what else have we got? Hexham as well. Yeah, just going back up north. Hexham, 44%. God, don't expect that. That's a shock. Penrith and the Solway, 35% Labour here, 25% Conservative, 19% Reform. I've seen images of the Reform candidate going hard out against the... Sorry, I'll say that again. I've seen images of the Conservative candidate for this seat going hard out against Reform and the Reform Party and Reform voters and saying, look, if you want to beat Labour, you should back me. Well, yeah, seems to be the case there. Seems to be an incident of that not happening. Whitehaven and Workington, Labour gain with an absolute majority of the votes cast. Barrow and Furness. Why? Labour 49%, Conservative 35%. Morecambe and Lonsdale, Labour 35%, Conservative 26%. Note the 18% for Reform there, 16% for the Lib Dems. Oof. Should we look at some of this? Should we look at the Southwest? Oh, this is just not worth doing. Exmouth and Exeter East, Conservative 24%. That means they win the seat. Lib Dems 22%, endorsed by the popular local independent, includes a little bit of Tiverton and Honiton. I think no, it doesn't. Don't think it does. Quite sure it doesn't. But yeah, endorsed by the local independent, and Labour with a strong base of support on the outskirts of Exeter here. They're not going away. So what happens? An overly split vote, and the Conservatives coming in down the middle. That's what happens. That's what happens with these boundary changes when you put disparate areas together, the outskirts of Exeter, and all sorts. Well, it's the realities of the boundary changes, I suppose. What have we got? Southwest Devon. Oh my God! What is the point? What is the point in this? Conservatives 28%, Labour 27%. Is this really going to happen? Ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, all humans, great and small, is this really going to happen? Are we going to see a litany of constituency fights end up with the winning candidate receiving 20-something% of the vote? Are we really going to see that? Actually, okay, the headline is the two-party share is going to be the smallest in quite some time, if not history, right? Okay, fine. By default, that should mean this is possible, yes. But the overwhelming Labour lead, the overwhelming crushing Labour victory that's to come, means that should be less likely, right? Yeah, in most seats, right? Yeah, look, this is the forecast which puts Labour on course for 410 seats at the same time as them losing Dudley, at the same time as them losing Aldridge, Brownhills and Aldershot, which is coming right down to the wire. Sure. Yeah, sure, absolutely. But really? Oh yeah, Romford. That's interesting. Andrew Rossendale looks set to just edge Labour for a narrow win in his Romford constituency. Conservative 33%, Labour 32%. Still coming down to the wire. Epping Forest. Yep, looking like a pretty... I was about to say a 5-point lead is safe. It's not safe. Oh, blooming hell. Yeah. I don't know what to say sometimes, ladies and gentlemen. Norwich South. Labour hold, sure, with a marginal increase in support. Notice that slight drift to the Greens there. Norwich North, Labour gain 45%, Conservative 27%. Chingford and Woodford, which one's this one? Enfield North, no. Southgate and Wood Green, no. Chipping Barnet, nope. Hendon, no. Harry's, where the hell is it? Look, I'm going to be real with you. I'm a very proud Northerner, and my ignorance about a number of certain London seats is, yeah, I'll wear that. There it is. Chingford and Woodford Green. Labour 50% of the vote. Conservatives 31%. Ian Duncan Smith out. Looks likely. Rotherham. Ooh, now Rotherham's an interesting one, and this is one where I've got a bit of concern about. Am I over-egging the reform vote? Look at this. Look at this. Okay, so the absence of the Conservative candidate changes things. Yes, we all know that. We all get that. Fine. And there is a high share of Muslim Britons in this seat, which does change the dynamic slightly. So Labour, 42% forecast, up 2 points. Reform, 37%. Is it really going to be that close? I'm just, yeah. I want you to just consume these results. Doncaster East and this place, the Isle of Axholme. What on earth? Yeah, Labour gain. 38% to 37% for the Conservatives. You would not bet on that. You would not bet on that. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Doncaster North. Ed Miliband seat. Labour up 19 points there. Oof. Really? Really? Is there not a Reform candidate in Doncaster North? 1 minute. Surely. Doncaster North. Can I have a look at this, ladies and gentlemen? Sure. Is there not a Reform candidate in Doncaster North? Wait a minute. Is the chat saying this? Right, I'm gonna look this up. Doncaster. I thought there was a Reform candidate in Doncaster North. There isn't. Why isn't there a Reform candidate in Doncaster North? Huh. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, is that if we call 6% a decent score for the others? Sure. I'm not happy with that. I'm looking at my model and I'm like, surely, yeah. Yeah, as Sophia says, wouldn't say Doncaster East should be that close. Labour should get it easily. Yeah. What else can we look at? Barnsley North. What do we say in Barnsley? Yeah, Labour up 4 points. Reform technically down 8 points because they came a lot closer in this seat at the last election. Barnsley South, Labour 44%, Reform 27%. God, really? Salisbury. Oh my God. I feel like I'm waking up the day after the election results have come in, and I'm looking at all these results and I'm thinking, oh my Jesus suffering Christ, is this really what happened? And I'm both, yeah, I can see it, but I don't believe it. I can see it, but I don't believe it. Has anyone else ever trashed their model as much as I have? Salisbury, Conservative 25% down 30 percentage points. Labour 24% up 5 points. Lib Dems 19% down 1 point. Reform 18% plus 18. I just want to go back to Chengford and Woodford Green, if you don't mind, because the absence of the independent candidate not performed quite as well as forecast. I'm sorry to say, the only data I have to go off, I'm able to go off, is the demographics of the seat. We know there is a Muslim backlash against Labour. That's true. That factors. You'll note if you compare to previous forecasts, the Labour share here is lower. There is no discernible strength in publicly available data to show the independent candidate is going to do particularly well. There's nothing to go off there. And I can't just go off vibes. I can't just go off tweets, I'm sorry to say. Okay? And outrageous though her removal as a Labour candidate was, sure, fine, whatever, there's nothing to go off. There really is nothing to go off. So, unfortunately, there we go. What else can we look at? Yes. It's interesting to note, how does YouGov have Shaheen at 23%? Don't know how. Let's move over to this one. Basildon and Billericay. Conservatives 28%, Labour 26%, Reform 25%. I'm scratching my eyes, partially because I'm absolutely exhausted, but partially because I'm in a state of shock again. Luke says he saw Ripon as a freeway toss-up. Wow. Oh, give over. Skipton and Ripon, Conservative collapse of 33 percentage points. Look, we are seeing some of this. We were seeing a lot of this in the local elections. We were seeing mediocre advances in the Labour share of support in the local elections. This is based on some form of data out there. Yes, the country doesn't vote like it does in local elections. I get that. I completely get that. And you have tactical voting dynamics installed to accommodate that. Yes. But goodness me. Is the Conservative freefall really going to mean Skipton and Ripon will vote Labour? Or could vote Labour on a quarter of the vote? On a quarter of the vote, absolutely. But are we over-egging the Conservative collapse in support? I'm sorry, let me just go back to the poll tracker. The Tories are down 23 points nationally. The Conservatives are down 33 points in Skipton and Ripon. That is not out of the realms of reasonable probability. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to prepare ourselves for this. It feels like, I have just unearthed the nuclear secrets, the plans for Russia to nuke Britain. And I'm just kind of saying it to you guys. Guys, get ready. Get ready, it's coming, because it seems like it's reasonable. Bournemouths. Ooh, hello. Right, so in the Bournemouth local elections, Labour did quite poorly. There was a very split vote. Labour didn't clean up. They didn't do amazingly. And what's going to happen here? Ooh, okay. In the Bournemouth parliamentary elections, Bournemouth West, looks like a Labour gain. Labour, 40%, Conservative, 35%. What about Bournemouth East? Bournemouth East, 41% for Labour, 34% for the Conservatives. The Conservative vote is only down 17 points. And Poole, what's going on here? A split vote. Oh, lovely. Lovely, lovely. Is it really that? Is it really going to happen? Torbay or Torquay. Lib Dems, 29%. There was once upon a time when I saw Torbay on, maps, Wikipedia, spreadsheets, elections, such like. And everyone kept talking about Torquay. And there's me, just looking around the map, spending my time, panning the election data I have, and thinking, where the fuck is Torquay? It's a different seat, isn't it? Well, yeah, I learned, no, not late in the day. I learned around about 2010 that Torbay and Torquay are the same places. But anyway, looking like a Lib Dem gain here, but you would not bet on it. 29% Lib Dem, Conservative 28%. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Maybe. South Devon, Lib Dems 32%. Wait a minute, let me just go back to Torquay. Really? Surely not. Surely some mistake here. Look at this. Torbay, Lib Dems winning Torbay with a smaller share of support than they would in Totnes. In South Devon. Really? Goodness me. Newton Abbott. Lib Dems winning with a tiny share of support. Goodness me. Goodness me. Right. What is going on? Reigate. East Surrey. Nope. There we go. Reigate. Oof. Tight fight between the Lib Dems and the Conservatives. Lib Dems were second here at the last election. Oof. I'm getting a lot of people saying I'm grossly underestimating the Reform share. Well, I think I'm overestimating it in a number of seats. Alexander Brewis, I'm going to ban you if you keep just shouting at me, okay? You've got to be polite, all right? Harrow East. Harrow East. I'm part of a generation that knows manners. All right. I was born in 1995. Harrow East, Labour, 43%, up 6 points. Conservatives, 36%, down 19 points. Labour gain. Yeah. Here's the thing. We don't have much data on voting Hindus. Okay? There's not much to go off there. Okay? It could... I don't know. I think this could be wrong. Yeah. Maidenhead. What we got? Oh, hello. Oh, I remember this. Yeah, Maidenhead. Where's Windsor? Oh, it's over there. Windsor, Lib Dems 34%, Conservatives 33%. Ooh, tight. Again, you would not bet on that. No, not one. Windsor. Theresa May's former seat. No, Maidenhead's Theresa May's former seat. Theresa May's former seat, of which the succeeding Conservative candidate is also TM, Tanya Mathias, yeah. Looks set to lose her seat to the Lib Dems. I did note, if I remember rightly, a sizable surge in support for the sizable growth in support rather for the Lib Dems in the Maidenhead constituency at the last election. Windsor, meanwhile, is silly. Eton might literally be represented by a Labour MP tomorrow, because the Conservatives are forecast to come away with 25% of the vote. Labour are forecast to come away with 24% of the vote. You wouldn't bet on that. You wouldn't bet on that. I'm not keen on gambling. I don't like gambling. Sorry. Although to be honest, I think I'd put a bet on a few things. I put a bet on UKIP getting more seats than Plaid Cymru at the last, not the last election, at the 2015 election. I think I was so confident I put 20 quid on. And then I put around about 20 quid on Marco Rubio becoming the Republican nominee. And then John Kasich. And that I think that was around about 60 quid wasted. Stratford upon Avon, what we got? Where are you? Where's Stratford upon Avon? This is where my geography is. It's this one. It's the yellow one. Oh dear. Stratford upon Avon, or Stratford on Avon. Chris Clarkson, the incumbent candidate, is in a fight for his life. Lib Dems forecast to come away with 30% of the vote. Conservatives 29%. Oof. Worthing West. Peter Bottomley, father of the house. Labour gain looks likely there. Conservative 30% down 26 percentage points. Labour 37% up 7 points. Worthing East and Shoreham, I need to change these, I don't like them. 43% there for Labour. A gain from Layla Williams, which is a Tim Lawton's Aussie, yeah. Conservative 27% forecast there, down 24 points on the last election. What's it saying in Canterbury? Ooh, small increase in support for Labour here, 2 points on the last election. Tories down 22 percentage points, really. Goodness me. Crawley, what we got here? Crawley, 43% for Labour, up 5 points on the last election. Labour gain. Conservatives, 29% of the vote, down 25 points. Oof. Old Bexley and Sidcup. Ooh, where's that one? There it is, this one. Now, I did make the point that when we had the Old Bexley and Sidcup by-election all those years ago, I was thinking, if Labour actually put some effort into it, they might actually win it, They could really do it. And you know what? They could in this general election, but it is coming down to the wire. Labour, 29%. Conservatives, 28%. Reform, 22%. Wokingham. Wokingham rejects the Conservatives. Lovely. Lib Dems, 38%, up 5 points. Conservatives, 35%, down 21 points. Would you bet on that? No, you bloody wouldn't. Another one, Maidenhead again. No, we've already done that. Henley and Tem? Is that... No. No, that's not its name, is it? It should be Henley on Thames. Why on earth would you... Oh, Tem is actually a market town. Okay, fair play, fair play. Here's me trying to pretend I know the geography of the country in which I live in. Yeah, I don't have a bloody clue. Right. Orpington. Oh, God, is this really going to happen? No, it's nip and tuck here. Conservatives, 27%. Labour, 25%. There was a forecast I put out a while ago in which Orpington was going Labour. Doesn't seem like it will now, but again, it's nip and tuck. Ooh, okay. What else can I say? Yeah. Old Bexley and Sidcup. Horsham. Where's Horsham? Horsham's around here, isn't it? It's somewhere. Wait a minute. I'm clicking all the... There it is. Horsham. Lib Dems, 30% of the vote. Conservatives, 27% of the vote. A Huge. Well, not huge. A significant 29 percentage point collapse in support. 16-point rise for Reform there. Is that really going to happen again? I wonder, is the rise in Reform correlating a little too much with where the Conservative vote exists, where it's safe, where it's big? Wait a minute, what's it like in Witney? No, that's quite reasonable. Yeah. Oxfordshire, there wouldn't be many Reform voters in Oxfordshire, and it seems that they're not, but maybe they'll be getting less. What about South Cambridgeshire? Yeah, actually, that makes sense. No. South Cambridgeshire, quite a comfortable Lib Dem gain their forecast, up 4 points. Conservatives down 17 points. Lib Dems 45%, Conservatives 27%. Lib Dem gain with Reform on 7% of the vote. Huntingdon, meanwhile, look at that. The seat of John Majors. Conservative 26%, Labour 25%, Reform 21%. I'm not going to bet on that. I think to be honest with you, the Conservatives will hold that, but I don't believe my model. So yeah, any questions on any seats where the Conservatives might increase? Isn't there a Leicester one? Is this one? No, not Leicester West, not Leicester East. Really? Yeah, that's interesting. Okay. Look at all this. Look at this. In every Leicester seat, you have the Labour vote falling back. Leicester West, Labour down 1 point. Leicester East, Labour down 3 points. And Leicester South, Labour down 7 points there. A 9-point increase in support for smaller parties, i.e. independents. Yeah. I'm going to release a spreadsheet later, but I'll be honest with you, looking at Bassetlaw, I feel humiliated, because that should not be happening. That should not be happening. I mean, but then again, I don't want to go tinkering in with a model, just because it doesn't seem right. Is that what I'm meant to do? Well, to be honest, someone would say to me, we can do whatever the F you want to do. Yeah, actually true. I can do whatever the F I want to do. But, how is Bridlington and the Wold? Yeah, where Bridlington? No, it's this one. Why is it called the Wolds? It's just East Yorkshire. What do I dislike about Bassetlaw? I don't dislike anything about Bassetlaw. I think my model is overstating the Conservative vote there and understating the Labour vote there. As a data scientist, I wouldn't muddle. I agree, hitchhiker's pie. I'm going to leave it as is. I'm going to stand up and say, this is it. I've given you a model. I hope you're happy. It could be wrong. It could be right. I think, I'll be honest with you, I'm quite confident about the headline figures. I just delve into the overall numbers and I think, bloody hell, is it really going to be that? Yeah. Bridlington and the Wolds, Conservative 29%, Labour 25%. Rugby, yes. Now, Rugby is one of those commuter towns, and I always used it in my analysis of the local election results to sort of say, look, Labour is advancing among suburban voters. And you see it here. Labour gain, pretty comfortable Labour gain. Labour 36%, Conservatives 26%. All right. Relative to Warwickshire, look at that. Kenilworth and Southam. Southam, yeah. Okay. Oh, God. This is just, yeah. Conservative, 27%. Down. 32 percentage points. Reform on 19%. Yeah, I mean, look at that, though. The gap, the margin between Labour and the Conservatives. Is that really going to happen? How is the Leamington Spa seat, or what should just simply be called Warwick? Come on, it's Warwick, right? Surely? Labour 50%, easy hold there, even though that was interesting. It was one of those Labour gains in 2017 that have since stayed Labour. What else we got? Guildford might go yellow. No, I think that's one of the nailed on gains of this election. Which one is it? There it is. Yeah, Guildford by almost 20 percentage points. Lib Dems 42%, Conservatives 28%, Labour 11%. All right. Yeah. Is it because Leamington Spa is actually bigger than Warwick? Well, you know what? It's just call it Greater Warwick. Simple as. Right. Woking. Yep. The Conservatives lose Woking. Who knew after coming out against all the Wokes? So Lib Dems 37%, Conservatives 30%, Labour 16%. Wycombe. No, not Wycombe. Oh my God. Wickham. High Wycombe. Why is it not just called High Wycombe? Labour 45%, nailed on gain here. Absolutely Yeah, sure. Conservatives 29%, down 14 points. Steve Baker's leadership hopes. Well, there's Steve Baker's leadership hopes. They're in red right now. What about this one? Chesham and Amersham, Labour, Lib Dem gain from the Conservatives in the by-election, and it looks like it's coming down to the wire here. Yeah, goodness me. I don't know. Yeah. The only data I have to go off is that, right? Demographically, it's quite friendly to the Lib Dems, but not quite as friendly as what you'd say in, I don't know, parts of Oxfordshire. So what's the by-election? Just a flash in the pan? Well, can they hold on to their by-election wins? They didn't in Brecon and Radnorshire. They lost that in the 2019 general election, but it looks like they're of course to gain it back. So, yeah. I think I went High Wycombe for chess tournaments once or twice as a kid. Lol. Thank you for that. Uxbridge and South Ruislip. Labour, 42%, up 5 points. Ooh, looks like Labour are running a campaign now. Labour, 42%, Conservatives, 28%. Well done then. Ruislip, Northwood and Pinner. Labour, 30. Look at this, are winning with 31% of the vote. That's first past the post for you. You know, Conservative, 27%. I bet you this. There must be some Labour MPs who will win. With very tiny shares of support. And surely they will appreciate they are going to be one-term candidates. And surely they will appreciate electoral reform is the way forward. Now, personally, I'll be honest with you, I don't think electoral reform is the way. I'm mixed on it. I want a solution. I don't want it to be STV. I want something that's not STV. Okay. Southend. What does it say on Southend? Southend, Weston Lee. Lee's in Greater Manchester. Labour, 36%, up 6 points, 7 points. Are we overstating that? No, I think Labour are quite confident. Actually, the impression is Labour are quite confident of picking up the very built-up bit of Southwest, Southend, Southend East. Ooh, well, to be honest with you, the margins are pretty much the same. Look at that. They're going to win Southend West with 36% to 31%. And they're going to win Southend East and Rochford by 36% to 30%. Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, why do I dislike STV? I just don't like preferences. My view is democracy, and every time I teach people stuff, it should be as simple and basic as possible. It shouldn't be complicated. Democracy shouldn't be complicated. It should be a cross on the ballot paper. It shouldn't be anything else, and you should understand the person who gets the most votes should be able to get in. It's a basic form of democracy, but I think there needs to be something to guarantee proportionality, in my view. So I'm all in favour of a Royal Commission. I'm all in favour of heading a Royal Commission on electoral reform, so there we go. Where is her seat? Witham. Priti Patel, 29% Conservative, down 38 percentage points. Oh, God. Oh, gosh, really? Is that going to happen? Yeah, it could do. Labour, 23%. Just had a new final poll. Survation have just put out their final poll here. I'm just gonna read it from my phone. 18-point Labour lead. Labour 38%, Conservatives 20%, Reform 17%, Lib Dems 12%, Greens 7%. I'll just zoom out here so you know what I'm talking about. Plus SNP 3. Yeah, okay. And their MRP model. Oof, yeah, despite those headline figures, an 18-point Labour lead, Survation still points to Labour getting 475 seats, fewer seats, I note, than my forecast. And they also have them on course to get 64 Conservative seats and 60 Lib Dem seats. And Reform getting 13 seats. Oof. Wow. Are you looking at that right? No Tory seats in the North West. Yeah, you're looking at that right, but a lot of them are coming down to the wire. Can I just reiterate my seat of Chester South and Edinburgh? Well, the seat in which I am, a 10-minute, 15-minute walk from Chester South and Edinburgh. A lot of Labour voting bits here. But 32.3% to 32.2%. And then let's go to the seat that was a bit more iconic another day. Tatton. 29%. Conservative, 28%. Deary me. Alex the Oracle says the model has Plaid winning Ynys Môn. No, it doesn't. And losing Carmarthen. I do not trust that a single bit. Well, it has Plaid winning Carmarthen and losing Ynys Môn. So, the model. Oh, Servation's model. Fine. I thought you were insulting mine. I was getting very offended. All right, fair enough. Fair play. Yeah, Chester will stay Conservative. I bet £3 that it will, but not more than that. Just £3. You know what, Neil Wilson, I will take you up on that bet. With all the people watching, which is a few hundred of you, welcome. I will take you up on that bet. I think Chester South will go Labour. Just. Yes. Matt F says, on that MRP, Servation's MRP he's referring to, in which the Conservatives fall to 60 seats, Reform get, what was it, a dozen and a bit, and Labour come away 475. Reform really is the unknown in this campaign, especially when the range is so big, which for a minor party should not be the case. I think any polling misses could be somewhat forgiven due to that. That's very true. Reform is the unknown of this general election campaign. Farage came out of nowhere. We all know, I've reiterated in all the streams I've done, Farage is more liked, the Tory base likes Farage more than it likes Sunak. And when the election is apparently a done deal, when there's a supermajority on its way, according to Grant Shapps, when, there's no point. Labour's already won. Won't voters go for the party and the person they like more, they like most? And for the case of most Conservative voters, in the case of most 2019 Conservative voters, who is that? That's Nigel Farage and the Farage barrage of Reform candidates, isn't it? I think there is a serious uncertainty here this election, and it's going to be in the shape of the Reform Party. So yes, absolutely. Esther McVeigh's second loss would be hilarious. It's down to the wire. Although not down... That's hilarious. Chester South and Edinburgh is 50-50. Tatton is Labour 29% and Conservative 28%. Really? Simon Clark in Middlesbrough South and East Cleveland. I think Mr. Clark has lost that one. Labour 48%, Conservatives 31%. Labour up 13 points to Conservatives down 27 points. That's interesting. I think the swings to Labour are going to be greater here. Although note that only up 6 points in Hartlepool. Reform on 30% there. Easington, Labour up 2 points. Okay, I take it back. Houghton and Sunderland South, what might be the first result of the night. Labour up 8 points there. Conservatives down 8 points there. Sunderland Central, Tories down 10 points. Newcastle, Pontine East and Wallsend. You know what? I'll be honest with you. If I wanted to live somewhere other than Chester, I would love to live in Newcastle. Love it. Every time I go there, I just love it. I love the people. Just a homely, familiar place. Love Newcastle. Newcastle, Pontine Central and West. Look at that as well. Vote down. First declaration might be Blythe and Ashington. Labour up 7 points. Oh, gosh. How many people will write off the exit poll then? How many people will write off all the polls, the forecasts, Yeah. Bexhill and Battle. Oh, God. Here we are. Oh, my God. This is silly. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be looking at my forecast and saying this is silly, but it is silly. Conservative, 27%, they hold the seat. Labour, 26%, they miss out on the seat. It's not on. South Derbyshire, I'm used to looking at this, that when it's a bit more blue, I'm not quite appreciating where everything is now it's red. South Derbyshire, Labour gain from Conservative. Labour, 33% up 5 points. Conservatives, 28% down 34 points. Oh dear. All systems are flawed. Absolutely all systems are flawed. Churchill said that. Every system's shit except the one. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Given how close many of these are, do you expect some very confused tactical voters? Ooh. You know what? I unfortunately think this model has gone in a bit blind. Look, I've accounted for tactical voting. I've made a decision, algorithmic, mostly, with the exception of, I think it was Hitchin and one or two others, as to whether a seat warrants or should expect a degree of tactical voting. So you will expect tactical voting in a place like Hitchin. You will expect tactical voting in a place like Bracknell. You'll expect it in a whole host of Lib Dem seats, which is why the Lib Dems are doing much better than what other models are showing. And where am I going with this? That is an application that is only happening in about, what's that, a quarter to a third of these seats. So you're ending up with so many results in which the winning party comes away with 20-something% of the vote. Because I don't know where the tactical voters are going. I don't know who the choice will be. You can probably look at the tactical voting websites, but I don't think, to what extent do people really pay attention to them? I don't think they're as popular as people think they are. Mid Buckinghamshire, look at that. Conservative 27%. Reform 25%. Dear me. If you want to access this, you can go to sotn.newstatesman.com. Look for the first article on your homepage. How will the UK vote in an election tomorrow? That's the model. You can look at this map yourself. Remember to click the button, view in full screen. What's the lowest percentage of party wins a seat in this model? It's this one. It's Exeter. Exmouth. Sorry, someone corrected me on this. Is it Exmouth or Exmouth? Not all of you at once, please. Exmouth and Exeter East, yeah, that's the lowest share, 24%. I think there's one for lower share. Actually, I can look at the back end while I'm here. Let me see. Wait a minute, can I? Do I have the max? Yeah, I can do the max here. Nope, that just breaks the whole model. Lovely, love that for me. Never mind. But Exmouth. Sophia. Exmouth. Really? Nonsense. Exmuff. Oh, God. This is all demeaning. Am I still feeling confident with the model, Mike? I'm looking at this. I'm confident with the headline numbers. I'm not confident about every one of these. I'm not confident about... I know Bassett Law is going to be a Labour game. I'm very confident Bassett Law will be a Labour game. To be honest with you, I'm almost proud of the model for coming out and saying Dudley is just a slim Conservative hold by the slimmest of margins. Labour's advance in so-called Red Wall England is, of course, down more to Conservative fall than Labour rise, and there's a lot of apathy in the so-called Red Wall, a lot of apathy in these parts of the world, and in the local elections just gone by, as I think... as that's just gone by, the Labour Party did underperform. So there's something something to think about there. But how do you see this again? If you want to go have a look at this, go to sotn.newstatesman.com or just Google Britain Predicts. All right, you have a gander. All right. Or is there a four-way fight? There's four-way fights everywhere, Harry Cromack. There's loads. There's too many. Dudley. Dudley is pronounced Dudley. Thank you, Neil Wilson. Yeah, sorry. For the unawares, on Twitter, I'm reading out some of your comments. So I can see them from Twitter and from YouTube. And someone just said Dudley is pronounced Dudley. Red Sutton... Oh, surely not. Red Sutton Coldfield, 28%, up 4 points, 5 points. Yeah, that makes sense. Are the Tories going to fall 33 points in Sutton Coldfield? Yeah, it could happen. It definitely could. So, yeah. What else have we got? Polls close in 21 hours and 56 minutes. 21 hours and 55 minutes now. What is the most likely constituency that the Conservatives can win in London? Orpington. Just Orpington. Could they win Ruislip? Yeah, they could win Rice. Why am I so bad at pronunciation? Ruislip? Yeah, they could do that. Bexley Heath and Crayford. Yeah, it's not out of the realms of impossibility. Bromley and Biggin Hill. Yeah. Croydon South. Seems a bit more of not a guaranteed Labour game, but Labour should be ahead there. Chipping Barnet. Yeah, Theresa Villiers looks set to be out. Who names these constituents sound like a Disney movie? Well, that's Americans. Americans look at Britain and think, is this a Disney movie? Is this Disneyland? Lovely. What would be the safest Conservative seat? Not safe. What is your boldest prediction for this election? Could be a seat total, whatever you think is boldest. What's my boldest prediction? Well, North Shropshire should go Lib Dem, yes. Is it bold to say I think Chester South and Edinburgh will go Labour? Yeah, I think so. Filton and Bradley Stoke, what's going to happen there? Yeah, Labour gain by 10-point margin here. 10-point majority. Can I just reiterate the statistic? Nearly 10%. Okay, there are going to be 64. There are 600... Let me start again, sorry. There are 650 constituencies in the House of Commons. 42 of which will come down to the wire. Literally 1 percentage point either way. There are 193 in which the winning party will have a majority of 5 percentage points or less. In other words, 6, 12, 3 in 10. 3 in every 10 of the seats in England, Wales, Scotland, and yes, Northern Ireland will be marginals as a consequence of this general election. Labour will win the general election. They will beat the Conservatives by a 20-point margin in the overall national vote. But they will see a country that could swing very easily, very quickly, and very wildly in the elections to follow. We are going to have many more marginals than we currently do as a consequence of this Labour landslide. All right, I would look at a 10-point, a lead, and I would say the Conservatives could, take that back within a term. Where are Labour most likely to pick up seats in Scotland? Unsurprisingly, it's the places where people live in cities. Ooh, now this is interesting because I always thought Edinburgh North and Leek was, quite safely SNP, but the SNP are down 6 points here. And Labour are up 20 points. 9-point fall in support for the Conservatives. Pro-union tactical voting there. Pro-union tactical voting from the Lib Dems. It can happen. That can happen. Not out of the realms of possibility that most of Edinburgh will be represented by a Labour MP. Edinburgh East, Tommy Shepherd. Fight of his life there. Yeah, look at that. 44% to 41% for the SNP. Edinburgh South West, Joanna Sherry. Controversial if you're regularly online. SNP 42%, Labour 27% seems to be one of the safer seats for the SNP here. Any more? Oh my God. Livingston, Labour gain from the SNP 41% to 40%. Would you bet on that? No, you wouldn't. You bloody wouldn't. Lib Dem 44% to SNP 30%. Yes, this looks like a not Labour hold. Lib Dem hold for Christine Jardine, Cowdenbeath and Kirkcaldy. Why don't you just call it Kirkcaldy and Cowdenbeath as it was previously named? Oh, that is just ridiculous. That's ridiculous, right? The boundary commissioners have a lot to answer for. Not least the splitting of the city of Chester. Cowdenbeath and Kirkcaldy. Gordon Brown's former seat here. Labour gain with 19-point increase. SNP down 32 to 32%. Glasgow looks set to go Labour almost every single seat. Is that every seat, actually? Yeah. Look at that, East Renfrewshire. Split in support for the pro-union parties will that mean the SNP holds on, or will the Labour candidate defeat the SNP? Defeat the SNP? That'd be interesting. Formerly Alex Salmond's old seat, Gordon. Conservative 41%, SNP 37%. And I would note, yes, at the start of this forecast, I think I had the Conservatives holding 6 of their seats. Now they're down to 3 of them. That's interesting. Should we go and have a look at Wimbledon? Lib Dem gain. Lib Dems 44%, Conservatives 24%. Conservatives down 15 points. Labour squeezed by 2 points. Really? Well, let's find out in a few hours. This is ridiculous. But I really must reiterate to you, those numbers, the headline numbers, they don't seem out of the realms of impossibility, do they? Sorry, they are not out of the realms of possibility. They are possible. These are likely, these numbers. Labour in excess of 400 seats. The Conservatives touching around 100 seats. Reform, 6 seats. The Lib Dems, 60 seats. The Greens, 4 seats. The SNP losing more than half their seats. That all seems likely. That all seems probable. It's when you drill down into how these votes will actually split, you think, really? Surely not. But go to the polls. The Tories are down 23 points on the last election. And some pollsters have them falling further. Don't they? So it's not unreasonable to think that this Conservative freefall will open up so many seats, making an election result so ridiculous in what falls where. Stafford, that's not ridiculous. Labour gain should be forecast there. South West Wiltshire, Labour winning this with 26% of the vote, really? Salisbury, coming down to the wire between the Conservatives and Labour because the Conservatives have fallen 30 percentage points. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Such is the scale of the Conservative loss that models like these may just break, The Greens should expect to pick up 2 seats off the Conservatives primarily because of Conservative freefall. But the Greens are indeed advancing. Okay. There we go. I think that should probably conclude it. All right. So, how are you doing? This has been an election campaign where the result was known at its start. Nothing has changed. The arrival of Nigel Farage has, in essence, spiced things up and has made the probability of the Conservatives not just, being defeated on a scale of 1997 possible, but certain, and has made the probability of the Conservatives being wiped out not just an error margin, a far-reaching error margin probability, but something we should seriously consider. But the winner of the election was known a year and a bit ago. The Liz Truss bender, 40 days in number 10 Downing Street, did a lot to perceptions of the Conservative brand. It saw their perception as a competent force crash, and it hasn't recovered. It did not recover following certain budgets. It did not recover following certain tax cuts. It did not recover following moments in which the Conservatives were doing things that were objectively popular. It was finished. History was written already in 2022 after the death of Her late Majesty. If you want to get dramatic, the die was cast. The end of the Conservative government was certain, and nothing has changed since then. The only thing that has changed has the commentators catching up with that new reality. That's it, really. The polls haven't changed, but even some political polling pundits have changed, It really is ridiculous. And so what we are beset by is a general election result in which the Conservative vote will crash, collapse, will be absolutely ridiculous, and could see some absolutely ridiculous results. I reiterate, there are almost 60 seats in which the forecast majority is smaller than a percentage point. And what's a percentage point? 300 votes? Really? 300 votes? You're kidding. Let me just check a random seat, okay? Yeah. 300, 400 votes. There are 60 seats in which the majority, forecast majority is a few hundred votes. There are 170, 180 seats in which the forecast majority is 2,000 votes. That can be felled, that can be overcome with an effective get-out-the-vote operation, that can be overcome by pavement-pounding politics, door-knocking, getting out there, doing your bit for your communities, you know? It looks as though there's no Conservative activists to do it anymore. So there we go. That was the Britain Predicts election forecast. A Labour landslide with the Conservatives reduced to their worst ever election result in recent history, if not ever. The Conservatives winning a majority similar in scale to Margaret Thatcher in 1987 and losing it in the space of 5 years. That sounds like poor management. Labour, under Keir Starmer, is on course to come away with 418 seats, up from 237, their worst result since 1935. Nigel Farage's Reform Party, a limited liability company, not a political party, is on course to come from nowhere with zero local government foundation, with zero ground game to pick up a number of MPs. Clacton is likely to go Reform. Yeah. Nigel Farage is 8th time lucky. The Lib Dems, having suffered the perils of being in government and actually having to do things, are now on course to come back and do better than they did in the 2005 general election. What on earth is happening? And the Greens who have spent many long years building up their local government base, look set to finally break through in Bristol against Labour and parts of Suffolk and Herefordshire against the Conservatives. And Labour's attempt to perhaps fell Brighton Pavilion for them appears to have failed, although I wouldn't bet on that. But nor would I bet on any of the other Green seats. There are a few seats I would bet on. I'd probably bet on Clacton. I'll probably bet on Mid Cheshire. I'll probably bet on a fair few seats, but I wouldn't bet on the Green seats, and I wouldn't bet on most of the Reform seats, and I wouldn't bet on Ynys Môn, or I wouldn't bet. I don't have much money anyway. So there we go. History in the making. A remaking, a remoulding of British politics in a way like no other. The void that'll be to be filled after the defeat of the Conservatives could be so big, we don't know what it will be. We really don't know what it be, and it's fair to say I don't think the Conservatives are prepared to know what it could be. I don't think they're prepared to reckon themselves with why they lost, you know, and I think that's bad news for democracy, really. So there we go. The Britain Predicts forecast you can find just by Googling Britain Predicts or sotn.newstatesman.com. Polls open at 7 a.m. Polls close at 10 p.m. The exit poll, the BBC exit poll that I will trust, will be up there. And if it comes close to these numbers, I'll be happy. I'll be very, very happy. Not for partisan prejudice, but because my model was right. I'm tired now, if it's not obvious. I had 4 hours sleep last night. It's not on. I am so tired. I am so tired. I want a holiday. Do not forget your ID. Don't forget your ID. What else? Vote early, vote often. Don't not vote. Do not vote. Tell your friends to vote. Tell your family to vote. This country is about to enter a new chapter of its history, and let's see what it will be. My name has been Ben Walker. Thank you very much for watching. If you are in the area tomorrow, or today rather, I'm having an election party, a watch party in which we all gather around, eat a ridiculous amount of food, drink a ridiculous amount of alcohol, and watch the results come in together. And what better thing to do, really? I'm having a watch party in the Crowne Plaza Hotel in Chester. If you want to come, you can. You can go to britainelect.eventbrite.co.uk, eventbrite, brite.co.uk. Tickets are still going. I think there's still some left. There may be some still left. This was an impulse idea of mine, and I thought, bugger it, why not? Why not do it? Although, to be honest, I'd prefer to have been surrounded by just, a few friends. But you know what? I love this. I like this stuff, and you're more than welcome to come, and it'll be great. So, I'm off. I'm going to finish up. I've got some pieces to write, got some stuff to do, got preparation for tomorrow. I've got to go vote. I've got to go knock some doors too. History's about to be made, and could be exciting. But in this new stability of a Labour landslide, there will be a fair few uncertainties. How will the radical right challenge Labour? How will Labour challenge and oppose and defend themselves against the radical right? I don't think Labour knows how to beat the radical right. I don't think the Labour Party knows how to tackle someone like Nigel Farage. I think they're quite impotent when it comes to that, and I think they have a lot to learn. That is going to be very interesting in the next few months and years to come. And how the Conservatives will recover, we don't know. What the Lib Dems do, that'll be interesting. And what will become of the Greens? Who will they go out against? Will it just be as a force to the left of Labour? Or will they be something a bit more broad church like the Greens in Germany? Who knows? Let's wait for the results. Let's talk about it. Let's drink to it. And yes, British democracy will breathe in the morning from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. There we go. My name has been Ben Walker. I'm the co-founder of Britain Elects, the organisation I set up with my late best friend Lily Jane Summers in 2013. She was a trans woman, and at that time I was someone who I was particularly resentful of the world, particularly isolated from the world, and I think for a trans woman to make me feel involved and useful, I think is a pretty good thing. And I think that trans woman will be looking upon politics now and reacting with a bit of disgust, actually, about the way we talk about trans people. But I'll leave it at that. Excuse the sudden politics there. But Britain Elects was set up in 2013. It was initially there to cover council by-elections, the bread and butter of the political junkies. And then it moved into just covering polls, the horse race. Everyone likes the horse race. And then through that time, as I was working in different places, I got into forecasting and modelling and strategies and polling and other such things. And yeah, it's love it. I love this stuff. But anyway, I'm off. All the best to you. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.